Hello, everyone, and welcome to Authentically SUG. I am your host, SUG. You know, when I always start my podcast, I always start with the whole purpose of the podcast was to tell my authentic story and to share the forum with other people that are willing to tell their story because we know that if it's authentic, it comes with some pain. And victory, not just pain and victory.
Exactly.
Yes, my guest today, I'm really excited to have her with me. We actually met very briefly on Instagram
Yes, we
during the
did.
during the pandemic, and that's when a lot of our authentic people just say, we're just going to do this thing. And one thing that really attracted me to you was because your hashtag was authentically me. And when I
Yes.
saw that, I was like, I got to get to know her. So
Yes.
let me introduce her to you. Her name is Tawanna Craig. However, she has several nicknames. I'll let you tell that at the end. I'm getting way ahead of the story, right?
It's okay. It's okay.
She once asked a group of women to give her one word to describe her. And this is what they said: You are authentic, enthusiastic, energetic, a go getter, a leader, innovative, and an advocate for teen girls. She has been told she is her mother's special child, which she takes as a compliment. I would too. Tawanna is honored to be viewed in this way. However, she sees herself as someone who loves God and strives to represent Him well. Everything said about her is because of God. She takes no credit for any of these things. I know that's right. That
None.
is right. Give him all that he is due. She takes pride in being a mother to an amazing young man who brings her so much joy. He brings a smile to her heart and is her biggest cheerleader. That's a lot to be said.
Yes.
She is
Yes.
CEO and founder of Authentically Me, a nonprofit organization, which we will hear more about. She is a certified life coach and a business owner. However, her passion is empowering young girls to become strong women and women to become powerful leaders. Her desire is to motivate and empower young girls as well as women to live out their God-given talents and abilities is a driving force in her life. I'm just going to kind of go down a little bit because I don't want to steal any of your thunder. You enjoy, though, teaching vision board parties.
I do.
That might have been interesting. I'll say, I'm going to put a note here because I want to ask you about the 2020 vision boards and how that all pans out.
Okay.
And so one of her favorite quotes is by Priscilla Shirer, who I love her. Oh my gosh.
I do too.
And she wrote in her book, The Resolution of Women. And it says, the life you're renovating has far too much. Okay, let me start from the beginning. The life you're renovating has far too much God-given potential for you to plant its roots in something so menial.
Right.
Dig deep and lean into truth, the truth of who you are and what He's created you to offer the world. And then orbit your life around that steadfast knowledge. Wow, that's going to become one of my quotes. So
Yes.
Tawanna,
Yes.
welcome to Authentically SUG. And so my mother always says that when guests come, you're supposed to sit back as the host and let them have the show. So that's exactly what I'm going to do.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so glad to be here. I am so glad to be a part of Authentically SUG. And when I saw your name and I saw your invite, I'm like, well, I told you at first I prayed, and then I'm like, oh yes, kindred spirits here, authentic. We're here to do the same thing. We're here to empower. We're here to encourage. We're here to motivate. And So when you asked me, I was really excited, and I think I spoke with you and I told you, I said, sometimes you get a lot of people who come into your DMs and they were like, oh, we want you to be, an ambassador for us. We want you to do this. We want you to do X, Y, and Z. But when I read yours and I did my research and I went on your other podcasts and I looked at your IG page and I'm like, she's not that person. She's actually authentic.
Yeah, I'm for real.
So I'm like, oh yes, I definitely wanted to connect with you and to see what we could do with networking and to just to be able to tell my story, to hear a little bit about you, and to get to know a little bit about what you do as well. So I'm here, and hopefully I can shed a little light on what Authentically Me is about.
Okay, so let's start with the name, Authentically Me. And you're the CEO and founder of the Authentically Me organization.
Yes.
It's a nonprofit organization.
So it is a nonprofit.
Tell us how it was birthed. I always like to do things as a life coach I always frame things in 4 questions. So, we know what it is. It's called Authentically Me. It's a nonprofit organization. So tell me why you created it and the purpose of it.
Okay, so Authentically Me was created I started in 2017, but it started out really, really slow. And so, I had to figure out what my mission was. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew why I wanted to do it. So I'll give you a little bit of that first. So when I decided to start Authentically Me, it was birthed from me and the things that I went through when I was a child. And I knew that there weren't enough or any, because no one approached me, to enough organizations out there for children like me. And when I say children like me, I'll say those of who were low self-esteem. And I believe that my low self-esteem derived from the fact that I had been sexually abused as a child, but I didn't tell anybody until I was 22. So I carried that myself, not knowing what to do with it, not because I didn't have a loving mother and not because I didn't think that she would believe me. It's just the person that happened with was someone that we trusted. And so I didn't know what to do with that. Excuse me for a second. I have allergies, so I apologize.
It's fine. Hey, you being authentic, girl. This is where you be that's it. It's fine. I'm sitting back.
We can just relax and lean and,
because it's 7:30 my time, because you're in LA, right?
I'm in LA.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm in LA, right? And so it's 4:48 here. So so I didn't know what to do with that information. It's not that he threatened me or anything of that nature. It was just the type of person he was, very a person that was trusting. And again, I had to, once I told my mom about it, I couldn't even remember how old I was. I had to tell her the location that it happened. And so that is when she realized, okay, that person lived here at this time. So I was about 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's the only thing that I could remember. And because that was her question. It was like, when, where, how, what did, she was upset because she was like, what did I miss? Right. But it was like, she's trying to raise the 5 children, getting up at 4:30 in the morning, getting on the bus, going to work. And he's assisting with, getting this young person to school and back from school and just helping out. And so like I said, I was 22 when I told her, and let me tell you why I told her.
Yes.
I know that it was God. Okay. I saw this movie that I have never seen before, and it was called It's Not Your Fault. It's Not Your Fault, and it had Patty Duke in it. And it was about a young girl who had been sexually abused, and she thought it was her fault that it happened to her because she didn't tell anyone. My story, I didn't tell anyone. So, it had to be my fault. And most people will say, well, you must have enjoyed it. I'm 8. How do you enjoy this at 8? You don't even know.
No, you don't know what it is at 8.
You don't know what it is, right? And so as the years progressed, because it stopped, because as I got older, it stopped and I began to understand what was happening. So I didn't put myself in situations where, I would be with him alone. And again, still didn't tell anyone. I just took it upon myself to say, something, I knew something wasn't right, you know? And so as the years went on, I kind of started thinking, what if he may do this to someone else, you know? And so I wanted to tell my mom about it because it just felt like I needed to get that off of me, you know, because it was like, when I saw that movie, it was like, it wasn't my fault. And it was like this burden had been lifted off of me, right? And it was like, it really isn't my fault. To this day, because I have Googled this movie, I cannot find this movie.
I wrote it down because I was going to look it up.
I cannot find it. And it was called It's Not Your Fault, and Patty Duke was in it. I have tried to find that movie because I wanted to use it as a learning tool, you know, for some of the girls that may be going through what I went through. I cannot find it. So if you find it, Shug, please.
You know, yet you started off with, when the story, you said it must have been God. And you know, he will put those things, and and then you go back, and then you know it was him. Because even when you said Patty Duke, I'm saying to myself, I don't remember Patty Duke playing in those kind of roles. So I found that odd. Oh, wow. Oh, yes. My God. I'll look for it. Wow.
I have been trying to find that movie, and I cannot find that movie. And like I said, that's when it hit me. It's not your fault. And at 22, I told my mother. And there was not one time that she said, I don't believe you. She was just angry. And she felt bad because she felt that she had not protected me. And I didn't blame her. To this day, I still don't blame her. My mom passed away in May of last year. She was 91. I miss her so much. But I don't blame her at all. Because like I said, she was doing what she thought was right. But what I realized is those conversations, because I'm 56, okay? So those conversations 40 something years ago weren't happening, which is, you know, most of the people that I talked to, it was like, okay, it may have happened, but don't tell anyone because we don't want to embarrass the family. Because most of the time, it was a family member or a close friend that did it. Right?
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, baby, it happened. You're gonna be okay. We're just gonna keep you away, and we're not, you know, so that it won't happen again. But don't tell anybody because we don't want that to happen. And most of the time is, you know, Uncle Bob or Uncle Joe or Uncle James, which is really not your uncle.
I was going to say uncle, right? Yeah. Where did that come from? But anyway, that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole nother conversation that we got to have.
Where did that even come from?
Exactly. So, you know, so those conversations weren't happening.
Right.
And so that's when I started to think somebody needs to do something. And so over the years, I still tried, you know, I dealt with it. I dealt with the low self-esteem, still not knowing what that was inside of me. I battled with it. You know, I have some amazing friends who still didn't know that I struggled with low self-esteem because I always tell people I was really good with faking the funk.
Yeah, we know how to put those fronts on.
I really knew how to do that. And so now that I'm more authentic and I'm telling my story, I let them know. I thought my girlfriends were prettier than me. I thought, you know, they were better than me. I thought they were smarter than me. And when I say that out loud to them, they all look at me like, really? we were good. And what's so funny, not haha funny, but funny, is that when you tell the story, you realize that there were so many people going through the same thing you were going through at that age and just didn't say anything. So I have friends who have had the same situations that they've gone through. They didn't say anything either. So we're here right now and we're supporting each other, and I can go and look, I tell my story because people, you know, you'll have people who will say, why do you think God allowed that to happen to you? Because those are the ones who don't want you to believe that God is real, right? And I always tell them that God allowed that to happen to me so that I can help that next person. And he didn't allow it to break me.
That's right.
In that situation, he covered me no matter what. He didn't allow to break me. I was bent a little bit, and I went through some twists and turns through the process, but he didn't allow it to break me. And so now I'm able to share that story. And so you asked the question about how Authentically Me was birthed, is because there was no one who saw that little girl that was struggling. I didn't see any programs, or no one showed me any programs that I even could go to. And so I wanted to make noise. I wanted to know that there was something out there, because each and every girl or boy, but my program is for girls, but I'm trying to find an organization that I can partner with that would help boys, because it happens to the boys as well. And so it started out as a program that was going to help young girls who had been sexually abused. But then as the program went along, I realized that it's not every child out there with self-esteem has not dealt with sexual abuse. It could be anything that they have dealt with. And I want to tap into that. And I want to be able to bring that part about them. And I want to tell them that they're fearfully and wonderfully made. I want to tell them that they're marvelous. I want to tell them that they're beautiful. And I want them to believe it deep down inside that that's what they are. And so it took me a minute. And so, so I went through a whole lot of stuff. Whole lot of ick is what I call it, in order for me to get to where I'm comfortable with being able to say, I'm a survivor and I was sexually abused and I'm good. And so one of my friends asked me to teach a class for girls at her church. And I'll tell you this story and then we can go. I'll move on to another question.
No. This is your platform. So as things come, then you tell the story, and then I may ask another question, or I'll just let you have this forum.
Oh, okay. So she asked me to teach a class for girls. And so one of the girls in the class, after it was over, because I had told my story and we had went through all the little skills and things like that. And she came to me afterwards and she said, "Why don't I look like you?" And I said, "What do you mean?"
Yes.
And she said, "You look normal." And I said, "Well, what is normal? What do you mean?" And she said, "I was sexually abused and I don't look like you. You look like you're okay." And I told her, I said, "It's God." And so I said, "Well, why don't you think you're normal?" And so she, in her process of the whole thing, she no longer trusted men. So she decided that women were probably more for her than men. So she decided that she would start having relationships with women. She became a teen prostitute, and then she also dabbled in drugs as well. And so she was then now transitioning. And so she had someone that was now helping her to recover and to rebuild, but she didn't understand why I didn't do that. And I told her in that program, I said, I know I'm supposed to be a statistic. I'm supposed to be a statistic. Statistics says if you are been abused, then you become an abuser. Yeah. You either have multiple children. You have multiple sex partners. You're very promiscuous. You use drugs. It's all this stuff that's supposed to happen to you,
right?
Because you've been sexually abused. None of that happened to me.
It's like a conditional thing. If you've been sexually abused, then. No, it's not always the equation. It's not exactly then a conditional. Yes.
Exactly. So, and I told her, I said, it didn't have to be that way. I said, and that's why I'm here, just for her. And I said, if one person gets it and starts that road of healing, then I'm good. And so that's why Authentically Me was started, because of people like her, because she didn't feel like she was normal. And I wanted to let people know you're normal. There was something wrong with them.
Yes.
There was absolutely nothing.
It's not your fault.
It is not your fault.
It's
not your fault. There was something wrong with them.
Yes.
With them, not with you. And so I wanted to make sure that I was able to have a platform for girls to come in and be able to identify with someone that may have gone through what they have gone through or is still going through. And so I started Authentically Me. And again, like I said, it started out with me, with my focus on, and our mission is to empower young girls to pursue their dreams, their vision, and their purpose, because we believe that a young girl's purpose is a strong, becomes a strong woman's vision.
Yes.
And and I tell people, if you don't know what your purpose is, follow your passion and it will lead you to your purpose.
Yes.
And so we started there. That's how we started with Authentically Me. And then I realized that the young girls had parents that were bent, not necessarily broken, but they had some parents that were bent. And
all parents are bent.
Okay. And so
everybody's bent.
Everybody's bent. And
everybody on the face of this earth is bent.
And so these young girls also had mothers or guardians or grandmothers or aunts or cousins or anyone that were also part of that cycle, that also needed someone to tell them it's not your fault, that you are authentic and what you're doing is okay. And so that's why now I'm creating different programs to try to speak to the adults as well, to tell them he really not her uncle. He really not your uncle, baby.
No. That's where they came from. Like,
let's break that. Let's
break
break that.
Even the words that we speak, the titles that we use,
exactly,
the images that we present.
Exactly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you would expand to the mothers of those children and the women that are connected with that one child.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that's why I started Authentically Me. And then it just kind of blossomed into other things. We wanted to start the mentorship program, the Little Miss Entrepreneur Academy that we're working on now for young girls who want to be entrepreneurs, the vision board parties that we do for them. And then I realized that once I did the vision board parties for the girls, then someone else reached out to me and said, can you start doing it for adults? And then someone else said, you should probably include vision board married couples. And then it said, well, why don't you do a girlfriend's vision board party? And I'm like, okay.
If that's what you want.
We can do that. So we're putting together, actually, and I wanted to start it April 1st, where we were going to put together, it was going to be a month long.
Okay.
For this one was actually going to be for adult women, and it was going to be once a week, the same group. So there would be a one-time fee for the entire month of April. We would meet on Saturdays, and we would have a speaker to come in for the first part. And they would talk about vision and direction and motivation and encouragement. And so what it's called is Vision Beyond the Board. Because
I like that.
Yes, it's Vision Beyond the Board, because some people, I tell people, I have 3 vision boards. I created the first vision board. It was so pretty. It was, I had fabric on it. I had pretty pictures. I went to Michael's and bling and flowers and all kind of stuff, because I wanted this pretty board. Yes. Because somebody else had a pretty board, and I wanted my board to be pretty.
Yeah.
Not authentic at all, just because somebody else had a pretty board and I wanted my board to be pretty.
Yes.
That board sat in my second bathroom, collecting dust. When I moved from that place, it moved and collect dust, and now it's in storage. Then I created my second vision board because I wanted just to do something with this group. And all I did was went through a magazine and I started cutting out words like motivation.
Because somebody else did that too.
Because that's what they said. Put something on your vision board that you can see every day, which is true. You do need to see it every day.
You do.
Put something on your vision board that you can see every day, and it's going to encourage you to do.
A vision board is intentional. So as you're flipping through those things, it is intentional. If you have to look at it every day, That it can't just be some little pretty thing like the very first one, because everyone was doing it. And then, you know, you cut out those words like it's a ransom note.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like a ransom note. I like that. We got you hostage on this board. So this is my
You're gonna go to Hawaii. I know, you know, when you think about it now, it's like, I mean, I understand the whole concept, but yeah, vision boards take intention. It
does. Yeah. It does. And that's why I wanted to call this program Vision Beyond the Board, because I was saying, yes, you put it on there, but you gotta go beyond. You got to go beyond that board. You know, what you put on there, you need to put feet to it. You have to put movement to it. And so I created my next board, and it's a process. I didn't just put anything on there. And I wish I could show it, but it's on my wall. Okay. And I meant to be it
next time.
Yeah, next time we'll show it. But it's a work in progress. It really is, because what I decided, like you said, I was going to be intentional.
Sure.
The things that I put on this board, and I just didn't put it on there, I put words after it. Like I put my house, and then I put paid in full, because I don't just want a house. I need that house to be paid in full. And then I've gone back to school to get my bachelor's degree in communications. I started that. And
Congrats.
Thank you. I'll tell you that story also. So on that board, I have Purdue University, and under that, I put graduate under that. And I put graduate under that because I graduated high school almost 40 years ago. And I started and stopped college, started and stopped, started and stopped, started and stopped. And so when the pandemic hit, I said, my job shut down April 10th. Of 2020. It shut down. And they didn't say we were done. We were on furlough. So that means I still had a job. I wasn't laid off. And I learned there's a difference.
Yes.
You still don't go to work. But you're still considered as an employee of the company if you're furloughed. So I was furloughed, so I still had a job in my mind, I was going back to work one day. They were going to call me back once the pandemic started to open up. And so I kept in touch. They kept in touch with me. And then but in this meantime, from April, and then the months were going on. And so I said, I'm going to go back to school. And my friends were like, yes, finally, because they've been saying, Tawanna, go back. And I'm like, I don't want to go back to school.
I know. Yes.
That's your thing. That's
friends. I'm doing fine. I really needed the grant. I got you. I understand.
What do I need? I got a job.
Fully. Yes.
So I went for when I was going to school, I went for the things that I enjoyed doing. So I did that, and then it hit me one day. It's like you're not working, and why not? My mom, like I said, she was ill at the time. She was ill. She passed away in May of 2020. I was to start school on June 10th of 2020. I couldn't do it because I still, that healing process, it wasn't enough time for me I couldn't even focus in the orientation. And so I called the school. I explained to them that I couldn't start, and I told them why, and they were like, totally understandable. And so the next time that the class that the communications was starting was August.
Okay.
And so I started school August 26th of 2020. And all of those classes that I took ended up being one credit shy of having an associate. I had 59 units. I needed 60, but they took all of them.
Yes, that's a rarity.
Yeah, they took 59 units, and they used that as part of my degree plan. And so instead of me having 180 units that I had to do to complete my degree, they subtracted the 59 from that 180. So instead of me doing 4 years, I'll do 3, which is amazing. I'm happy about that. But I had to decide to do it for me. Not because it was for
but.
Huh?
You said but.
Take out the but.
Yeah, I was in therapy years and years ago, and my therapist said, once you say but, you cancel out everything that you said.
It nullifies, right,
So
right.
it was
You're
just so
correct.
interesting because you gave all of your reasonings for doing it and everything, and then you say, but.
Yeah.
And I just tuned into that. So I'm sorry. So you did all that, period. Now start back up. I'm sorry.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I did all of that.
Yes.
And I did it for me this time. I didn't do it for a job. I didn't do it for someone else. I didn't do it because my friends kept saying, Tawanna, go back to school. You can do it. You can do it. I did it for me. I did it for me this time. And I am enjoying school. And I kept telling them, I'm like, I'm 56 and I'm back in school. And I have been on the chancellor's list both terms. I'm like, I'm killing it, y'all. I'm killing it.
Appreciation, I think, because I went back and I got like 2 associates and I got a bachelor's. I got my bachelor's in 2014.
Okay.
Congratulations. I was 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it too for me.
Exactly.
And it is, I was chancellor's this, dean's list that. And because you're doing it for you, it's an ownership that
exactly
that was different. When I was 16, I should have been going in school. I was raising kids and stuff and everything. It was so interesting though, because you talked about the vision board. And when I did my vision board, I called it, I think I did it 2020, but probably the first vision board I've ever done. And I called it Vision 2020 and Beyond. And so when you said that, I was like, I could pull it out of my, unless I threw it away. No, it's right over there. So it was so interesting that we had that similarity that you would call it. There was something else. So, okay. So when we talk about stories and you talked about the young lady asked you, like, how did you get through it? And you said it was God. And one thing that I'm emphatic about is that our stories, our journeys, our pain, our suffering is not meant for us.
Exactly.
That's a hard thing, though, to grasp. I mean, when you say that, like most people say, well, who's it meant for? Because if we fail to tell other people, if you failed to tell your story, that one girl just asking the question, why do you look normal? That one exchange, and that you planted a seed. If we never tell the stories, of course, they're painful. Mine was, I had an abusive husband. And I was a mother, wife, and widow within 6 years by the age of 22. And he was abusive. And, that's kind of my story. And more than that, yet, if I never tell it, if you never have told it, it's our duty almost when we go through suffering. If we know the Lord, if we know that he was the one who got us through, and we know that because here we are.
Exactly.
It is our duty to tell others, to help others heal. And you knew for yourself that there was no help for an 8-year-old girl.
Exactly.
No one was talking about it.
No one was talking about it.
You had to tell it.
Exactly.
So our stories mirror on, and it was so funny because you said 22. That's when my story, your story birthed at 22, in that you finally spoke the fact that you had been sexually abused. And at 22 was when my first husband died and I was able to live again. So it was just so interesting.
Yes.
So I'm divorced now. And so can we talk about maybe some other aspects of your life, as how they mirror and how you're helping other women and your journey as your journey continues? Because, you had that revelation at 22, you birthed that, you're back in school now. There's some other things, though, you're being authentic about, and you're able to help other people journey through. So what are they?
I am. So one of the things that I won't say proud, it's just part of my life. It's a chapter that in my life. In the bio, you mentioned my son.
Yes.
Who is absolutely amazing to me.
You said it. He's
absolutely amazing. He's 29 years old. And we had him when in 1992. So I was married in 1990. My husband and I married in 1990. We had our son in 92 and we divorced in 93. And so I was a single mother for probably 13 years, almost 12 years. Yeah, 12 years. And this is probably going to be shocking to some, and some, it happens. And so I remarried my husband again in 2004. And so some parts of the story is I won't share because of my son and because some things I think is my husband's story to tell.
I got it.
Yeah, so we remarried in 2004. And so we've been married since then, and now we're in the process of ending it now. I tell everyone that I will not say anything negative about him because I feel that he is a good person. We're just not good for each other.
Yes.
We were that typical, how they say, boy next door. He was the boy across the street. Mm-hmm. We met when I was 7, he was 9. We, as my mother said, we had that puppy love. So in 6th grade, he's 8th grade. He was my boyfriend. I had an older guy because I was in.
Because you claimed him at 7, so
he was my boo, y'all. He was my boo. And so, 6th grade, he was 8th grade. Look, but you don't tell your mama, right? Because you can't have no boyfriend at 12. What you mean? What you mean? But don't. He was. That's your friend. That's your friend. That's not your boyfriend. So
that's your uncle. No, I'm just.
So I'm in elementary. He's, you're proud because you got this older guy in school, and you're in that. So we ended up in the same junior high school, and that's a whole nother story because you see signs, but you're young. You're young. Nothing really changes. And what I'll tell you this, ladies, and I'm gonna come in close. But if they show you, believe it. Okay. And
no, ma'am. No, you have to stay there for a minute. I preach that all the time. Don't ever think that what you felt, what you saw was just your imagination. When that hair curls up on the back of your neck or on your arm, when you see something in that man, you better not think that the next time it's going to be different, because it ain't going to be different. I say that every time, and every time I go up in the camera, because it's true. And we think, I'm nice enough. I came, my first came from the hood. Well, I'm sorry. He came from, oh Lord. And I was a suburb girl, and I just thought that I could just love him enough. You are so right in that.
We think that, like you said, we can love him enough that we have it in us to change them.
Yes.
Now, whether or not that's our fault or their fault, they're not changing. It's okay. So Tyler Perry is, we know that Madea is a fictional character. But there was one thing that she said, or he, Madea Terrapure, in one of the plays, Madea said, baby, he will change for you, but he gonna change back. So if you, like I said before, believe who they are.
Yes.
And they're trying. They really are. But just like you are being your authentic self, that's who they are.
Yes.
That's who they are. And so you can't really blame them for being who they are. So we have to take ownership, ladies. We have to take ownership of what we allowed to happen. And I'm going to throw this out there. I didn't really understand a lot of the stuff that I allowed to happen until I got into therapy.
Yes.
And then I had to start setting boundaries for myself.
Mhm.
I had to start loving who I was and accepting who I was and understanding that if a person can't accept who I am, it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
But you have to know who you are first.
But you got to know who you are first.
That's right. And that takes a lot of soul searching.
It does.
So in order for me to say all of that, I have to know who I am. And that takes a whole lot of work, looking in the mirror, doing just what you're saying, reconciling the fact of the things that you allowed in your life. And you knew when they were coming, you knew you should have stopped them at the, you knew that. You knew that. Yeah.
You knew. One of the things that me and my girl, well, I got this actually from my niece, and my, you know, she's younger than me, but she's so wise. And we laugh about it, but she said, women, no, she didn't say women. She said, Auntie, you need to stop painting red flags white. She said, when you see a red flag, look at it as that red flag. Stop trying to paint that red flag white. That red flag is a red flag. You need to stop. And so that's what if it's a red flag, it's like,
yes,
I'm stopping. And it's like, okay, you have to, and you have to. And that was me. And like I said, I will never say anything negative or bad. It didn't work for us. There were issues that, you know, like I said, is his story to tell. One of my classmates, because I'm really active on social media because of, you know, Authentically Me and the other things that I do. And people can see that you're transitioning out of a situation without you even saying something. So don't think you fooling people.
No.
Don't think you fooling people. Because I always say, I'm gonna stay married until I'm married again on social media. Because, you know, Facebook will show you put on, as soon as you change your profile, it pops up there. New profile change. Tawanna is no longer married. Tawanna has a new relationship.
Oh, really?
You know, people put on there complicated, no, in a relationship, engaged, all of this, right? So I said, I'm staying married until I'm married again, because I don't want.
What is my Facebook status? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's what I always tell people. I said, yep, I'm staying married until I'm married again, because Facebook will surely put you out there. They will put you on blast.
You're on blast.
And so will put you on blast. But let me say this: don't think you fooling people, because of what we're doing and because we're being authentic. So people are watching us. Okay, people are watching us, and so I didn't know that the things that I was posting on Facebook started to share my story and to see how things had changed in my life. So they saw less pictures of me and my husband on Facebook, and more pictures of me alone, and more pictures of me traveling alone, and more pictures of me doing this alone. So people started to see that. I hadn't even paid attention. All I know was I had decided that I was going to now be comfortable in the skin that God gave me, and I'm going to be my authentic self, and I'm going to enjoy this new chapter, and I'm the ride that I'm on. So I have even one guy came to me that I went to school with. Now, mind you, never said anything. And he said, do you miss being married? That just blew me away, because I never put out there. I never put it out there. And I said, I miss marriage, because I enjoy marriage.
Sure, I believe in that. And I still, to this day, even after 30 years of marriage, after, being divorced recently, I believe in the sanctity of marriage. So yeah, I definitely.
Yeah, I said, yeah, I enjoy marriage. I do. And then another one came to me. Again, never had I put this out there. Another girl came, another lady, I won't say girl, she's another classmate that follows me on Facebook. And she said, you're no longer with your husband. And I said, no. And she said, I can tell. And I'm like, is that a good thing? She was like, no, your personality on Facebook is different. Yeah. She said, but you never put anything negative out there. You never post negative things about him. And I said, and I never will. I never will. Because one, that's not my personality. I don't do the drama and I don't do the messiness, because he has his life, and that's my son's dad. you know, and that I would never,
That's
you
right.
know, put anything out there that's negative about him, because just because he and I didn't, you know, gel, like I said, he could be a wonderful person for someone else. We weren't great for each other. We were just not great for each other. And like I said, it's his story to tell. And if you had him sitting in this chair, he might tell a whole different story.
We all have our different versions, you know. I mean,
exactly.
None of us will ever see the same thing the same way.
Exactly.
Whether it's a movie or whatever. And divorce, relationships, never. We never see the wedding the same way.
Exactly.
Never. So yeah, and it's his story to tell. And I'm so glad that, you know, you said that, because it is his story to tell. So interesting, because when you said that your friends, as you're transitioning from married to being single, transitioning through divorce, and because we've owned it, we act accordingly. Because I remember, because I left my husband in 2015 before I actually filed for divorce, and filed for divorce until 2020, 5 years later. As I was talking to people, a young lady, woman that I was working with said, "You talk like you're single." And so it was just because I must have said I a lot instead of we. I'm going home. I did this. And so it just reminded me, when you said that, as you're posting pictures, not necessarily consciously, maybe subconsciously, because you're moving in that frame, other people are realizing that. Even on Facebook, I'm guilty of that as well. They see me now, it's just me, or it's me and my children and my children. And so I've never formally put it up there, because I have a Facebook that's like Rana, and then I have a Facebook that's Authentically SUG. So I'll put more of my social media stuff on Authentically SUG. And then sometimes I wonder, like, are you really being authentic? But then again, I don't need to put on my Facebook page that I'm divorced and I'm married, that I'm in a relationship anyway, because sometimes I think should be called fake book. But anyway, you know, that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole nother one. Exactly.
But you're right. As you were transitioning, people were just noticing.
Yeah, and it's okay. And it's okay as long as you are okay with yourself. And again, like you said, you're not being fake about it. You're not trying to diminish someone else's. What do they say? Don't try to dim somebody else's light.
That's
so that yours can
shine. I can shine very well by myself, thank you.
I can shine all by myself. I'm doing this all. I'm good with that. And so I never try to diminish his light, you know, and I want him to shine, just shine, just shine, you know, and I'm okay with that. And so, so for me, it's like, as long as I'm good, as long as my child is good, and I keep saying child because he's 29, but he's still mine.
I know, what do you call them? I call them kids, children. It's your child. He will always be your child. What do you call him? You call him what you want to. You're his mama.
Exactly. So, yeah, so and I thank him for that, because had I not gone through that chapter, that journey, down that road with him, I would not have this amazing child that, you know, we have. And that was one of the things, because I always claimed him as my child, and I had to be reminded that I didn't do it by myself. Right.
It's something that we say, you know, it is. Not being disrespectful. I think it is your child, you know. Yeah, it's mine. I don't think it's being disrespectful, but yeah, sometimes I have to think about our child. But if I'm talking about them,
it's mine.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I was going to mention, when I was saying that people are watching us, and I know that people are watching you as well, because you're there, you're telling your story, and you're boldly telling your story. And I remember, because I was, you know, I'm very active in the church and part of the children's ministry, but I was going through a phase too, because, you know, when you're transitioning and you're doing other things, you just feel. Yes. I was younger then and really didn't understand. And so, but I knew God still had me in his grip, right? So I knew that there was a reason for certain things, but I also wanted to do other stuff. Now, I've never been that wild, loose person, but sometimes I wanted to not go to church, or I didn't want people watching me, or, whatever. So I remember another leader in the church who I love. Her name was Sister Vi. She's passed away. And she said, Tawanna, the younger ones are looking up to you. And I said, being that it wasn't nice. I said, I didn't ask them to look up to me.
I was great. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, okay, all right. Y'all didn't ask me to be a spokesperson.
So she said, they're looking up to you. And I said, I didn't ask them to look up to me. She said to me, you don't have a choice.
You're like, ah.
She said, you don't have a choice. She said, this is where God has placed you. So whether or not you accept it now, you accept it later, you don't have a choice, because this is where you're going. And so I still remember that. And so now I look back on that and I'm saying, I have to conduct myself in a way that if there was somebody else out there, that young person who may see me and think, why am I not normal? I have to be able to say, look, there was a time that I was faking the funk too, but let me tell you how you can get past that.
That's right.
Let me tell you how you can get past that. And so that's what I want to do now. And that's why I'm more vocal, because trust me when I tell you this, SUG, that other Tawanna, her name was Matilda. That's my alter ego. Her name
Matilda. Wow, Matilda.
I don't know. It was just Matilda, girl. It was just Matilda. No. She never would have been bold enough to sit here with you, because I would have wondered what people were going to say about me once we shut this down and you put this out here to the public. I probably wouldn't have slept that night, because I would have been going back trying to figure out what the comments were going to say. If they go, that would have been that girl. I would have been that girl. I was that girl, because I was so afraid of what people thought about me. And so now it's like, you know what? I ask God for this voice. I ask God to stretch me, to increase my territory, to allow me to be able to tell my story.
Prayer.
Huh? Yes.
Is that the Jabaz prayer? Yes. Yes.
The prayer of Jabaz. Yes. I ask him to do that so that I can be able to help someone else. And so that's what I've been doing. And so I'll go on Facebook sometimes and, I'll just Friday night, we gonna sit here and chit chat. There is no script. There's nothing. I'm just sitting here talking, and whatever we say, whatever comes up, or if something has happened during the week and I want to share, I'll sit in front of this little screen and I'll just talk. And I would have never been bold enough to do that. But I know that it's God, because I know that he has a plan for my life. And I know that whatever that I'm sharing, somebody else can be able to grow and heal, knowing that they're not walking alone. And so I want young girls to be able to understand that you may be going through some things right now, because me and my friend used to say, kids are cruel. When you're in school, they'll, the little mean girls and all that kind of stuff. So it's like they cruel. And so I was like, I want you to be able to boldly say, it's okay. If they have something to say about you, it's not you, it's something that they're dealing with. It has nothing to do with you. If you know that you're living your authentic self and you're not out there trying to hurt someone else and you're not trying to be mean and nasty to somebody else, it's just you. If they have a problem with you, it's their problem. And I know that that's hard. I know it's hard to deal with, because, one of my friends would tell me, words live, people say things to you and words live.
How many people are dealing with the words that people have spoken to them? Exactly. Millions. I think, millions. Yeah. And that is so true. And you can't take that back. Once
you cannot take it back.
In your soul, in your head, there's no way to take that back. demeaning words, negative. Yeah.
Exactly. And I used to, I'll say this, and it was part of that self-esteem. And I don't know if I've shared it with my friends, but really never in public. So you're getting a first.
An exclusive one, Authentically SUG.
I used to, for some reason, and that was part of me thinking something was wrong with me, because I would always get, and this was in that lapse of when I was single, I would always get approached by married men. I didn't, and I'm like, so I told my friend, do I have woman on the side tattooed on my forehead? What vibe was I putting out that I was attracting men that thought I would be that woman on the side? So again, and now it doesn't happen now. And it's not, even, it's not because I wear a ring or anything like that. So It's not, it's not like they're not approaching me because they think that I'm married. Maybe it was the way that I looked, because when you have low self-esteem, you don't sit up straight. You don't look people in their eye when you're speaking with them. You kind of carry, you walk sometimes with your head down. And I think those type of men pick up on that.
I'm going to go to the flip side of that.
Okay.
Because, I have friends, male and female. Men are attracted to, well, I would, and okay, I'm not the professor on it, but I would think the flip side would be, okay, so during that time then, you did have low self-esteem then?
I did.
Okay.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
I did.
So if that was the case, because I know then the flip side too is that, some men like this confident woman, but that did apply to you because at that
No,
time,
that applied to me.
That was the vibe that you were giving off.
That was the vibe that I was giving off.
Okay.
Now I don't get that. And I remember another guy, he was a friend, but we were going out to lunch. Ladies, this is something that I did not recognize. When I would walk, I would look down when I'm walking.
Oh, honey. Oh, I look straight. My granddaughter now, it's like we would go walking in the park and I said, head straight, because she would look down. And it was so fun. She said, I can't do it, Mimi. No. But yes, that's so something. I can't stand people that look down. And most people, I say the majority of people, when they walk, they look down.
I had not noticed. And this was probably 93, 94. When a guy told me, I was going to lunch with a guy and we were walking to lunch. And we were walking and he said, pick your head up. And I said, what? He said, never walk looking down.
Nope.
He said, that is a sign of low self-esteem.
Yes. My grandmother always said,
exactly. No one had ever said that to me. No one had ever said that to me. And so and of course it took time because it was a habit. It was, it was a habit that is formed. I would walk and then, you look up when you're going because, you want to make sure you don't run into a pole or anything. And he said, don't you ever look down when you're walking, and he gave me a compliment. He was like, you're a beautiful woman, blah, 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 blah. Well, and so I remembered that from him. And so now I make it a habit, and there are times just because, I may fall back into it.
Right.
Myself. It's now something that I'm conscious of. And so when I'm walking, I make sure that I hold my head up. I hold my head up when I'm walking. And when I'm speaking to someone, I'm going to look you directly in your eye.
That's right.
When we meet each other and we shake each other's hand, I'm going to give you a strong handshake because I need you to know that I'm in the room. I need you to know that I'm just as confident as you are about me being in this room. And so, it's like I've learned things over the years, being in corporate America, because I remember shaking a guy's hand when we went into a meeting and he said, oh, you have a firm handshake. I love that. He said, that lets me know that you're confident.
Yes.
But those are things that I've learned, over the years. And those are the things that I want to pass down to the girls and to the ladies who haven't gotten it yet.
That's right.
You know, because that's something that we need to know, you know, and that somebody didn't tell them, you know, because like I said, we came from a generation that our parents, they worked, they made sure that we had food, we had clothes, we had a place to live, but the conversations never happened. You know, I had conversations with my son. You know, we can talk about anything and everything, you know, and I talk to him about your body belongs to you. And no one has a right to touch you. And if they do, you need to come and tell me immediately. Because my thing is, I would rather err on the side of the child than to err on the side of the adult. And so I need you to always come to me, you know, if something happens. And so we have that connection, you know, and so, you know, that's where I am, and I'm excited about this, you know, this new journey that I'm on. I talked about me going back to school. I became a certified life coach in this pandemic as well. And so the pandemic was bad, you know, it wasn't a good thing, but I've gotten some good out of it. You know, I've gotten some good out of it. I've started back school. I, you know, became a life coach during this process, and started this amazing job that I'm loving right now. And so I'm just moving forward. I'm moving forward, and I am enjoying life.
Okay, so let me just touch on maybe one or two things. So in April, you said you were furloughed. So you went and I think we went on to something else because that's how conversations go. So you were waiting for them to call you, and you all were keeping in contact. Yeah, I'm assuming though that it didn't work out because you have a new job.
Yeah, they called me on July 31st and said, I'm sorry, we have eliminated your position and you no longer have a job with our company.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, and I really hadn't, you know, been looking. Like I said, it happened in April. I was my mom's caregiver. Okay. And so I said, okay, well, this gives me time, because I didn't know she was going to pass away that quickly. But she passed away within that month, that May 28th. I was furloughed. I was furloughed April 10th. She passed away May 28th. And so I took a little time for the healing process. So I really wasn't looking for a job, because actually I thought I had a job, you know, and they were going to call me back to work. And so when I got the phone call and it appeared on my phone, I'm like, oh, here we go. Here's the call.
Yeah, it's the call, not the call you were expecting. It is the call.
It's the call.
Yeah.
And what's so funny, for lack of a better word, when he gave me the news, he didn't know, because I hadn't talked to him, the HR person. And the first thing he said was, how's your mom? Because they knew my mom was sick. And I let him know that my mom had passed away, and he just started crying. He started crying. And he said, and he's like, Tawanna, I am so sorry. And he was like, and now I have to give you this news. You know, so I knew then it wasn't, oh, you're going to come back to work next week, right? And he cried. And I said, and I'm telling him, it's okay. And he was like, I don't want to give you this news, and you just went through that with your mom. I said, it's okay, because I knew that I would be okay. Yeah, I knew that I would be okay. Right. I mean, from the time I didn't miss a car note. I didn't miss in my bill stayed. Nothing. God covered me. He covered me, and because he knew that it was going to happen. So he had me with my, you know, my savings, and everything was intact. So I didn't miss anything in the process. And so he gave me that news, and, you know, I'm consoling him. Like, it's okay.
It's okay. I don't have a job anymore. I'll be fine. You'll be fine. Are you okay?
Are you okay?
It's all right. You'll be all right.
Yeah, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine.
Okay, bye.
I gotta go. So, yeah, so that was July 31st that ended. And so, but.
So you have a new job that you love now.
I have a new job that I love now, working in for a manufacturing company who is a global company, and yes, and it's amazing. It really is. I love learning different things, and so and I love to travel. So there's a possibility of travel within this, with the company, and so I'm getting back out there. I'm getting back out there, and it feels good.
Well, I'm happy for you, Abby. It's so interesting that 2020 COVID did bring a lot of damage, a lot of hurt, a lot of deaths in the process. Or also, I've seen so many things that have been birthed, so many things that have come to light, and even in the midst of it. And so, as believers, though, if we know where our help comes from,
right?
In
Exactly.
season, out of season, in COVID, out of COVID, then we will be okay. And people, what does okay mean? It means that no matter what, if we choose to believe, because having faith is a choice. It's an everyday choice.
It's a choice.
It's not like once I decide having faith is a choice. Having faith during COVID was so much of a choice, day after day after day. I remember at the beginning part, there was nothing but doom and gloom.
Yes.
Nothing. Of course, we're still in it. Yet I look at the fact that God got us through to this point. Now, why did 500 something thousand people have to die? And we started the conversation, I think, with you saying, why does God allow certain things to happen?
Yes.
IDK. I don't know. Yet I know even through that, I choose to believe.
Right.
I choose because because I knew what he got me through out of when I was 16, 18, 22, when I was facing bankruptcy and all that. I knew what he got me through.
Exactly.
So I choose to believe. Yeah.
And it's as simple as that, that it's a choice, because God doesn't force himself on anyone. He allows us all to make that choice, whether or not we accept or reject him. Now, that's on you. I don't try to force my belief on anyone else, because that's a choice that I made for myself. But I know that in order for me to get through my daily process, and even all the ick that I've gone through, it was God. It was God that got me through, and I'm a survivor. I'm not a statistic. And I'm able to share my story. And I praise God that he has given me that voice to be able to do that. And that was one of the reasons that I chose communications as my major. Is because I want to be that motivational public speaker. I have my vision to be standing on stage in front of thousands of people telling my story. I want to be able to go to companies, to be able to motivate them, to be able to say, yes, you can do this. Yes, you can build. Yes, you can grow. Yes, you can do whatever you set your mind to do. I want to be at retreats with women who are having these issues and says, I don't know if I can do this one more day. You can.
Yes, you can.
You can. Those women who are struggling, whether or not they should go back to school or not, you can do that. There's a way that you can do that. Like I said, at 56, I'm there. I've been on the chancellor's list twice. I just got my, the National Scholars Association that they sent me a letter to be a part of. So I'm part of that. And it's like, when I finish, I'm going to pledge, because I want to be.
All right now. All right. Might as well. Yeah.
Have all that I want to do. And I'm excited about it all. One
life. And one of my sayings is living life unapologetically of the past. And what that means is just living life, reconciling the things that we allowed in our lives, saying, okay, SUG, okay, Tawanna, yeah, you allowed that. Okay, deal with it. living life unapologetically of the past just means, you know, if I offended you, being woman enough to say, hey, you know I offended you. I know I was stepped out of line. Forgiving myself, forgiving you, and
Right.
just, you know, working through all of the stuff that has happened and choosing every day to live life positively as we can, to share our stories with others, to be unapologetic about who we are.
Right.
You know, and it has been such a pleasure. You've got to come back because there's so much more that we have to talk about.
Oh,
I mean,
we
could have gone up for 2 hours or done a part 1 or part 2 or whatever.
Exactly.
And it's so interesting. And I'm going to touch and agree with you on what you said, because I see myself in those same rooms that you see yourself in. So maybe it'll be authentically me and authentically SUG in those same rooms. Because I do see it. I have seen it for myself. I know it for myself. And so I'm going to touch and agree with you,
there you go.
that that's a vision that you see. You touch and agree that because if we continue to share our story, that if we touch one person by them listening, by them seeing the YouTube, then we've done enough for right now. But we're going to keep on doing this thing.
Yes. Maybe next time we'll switch roles and you tell your story on mine.
You just tell me when. You just tell me when. Okay, so before we leave, though, I need you to leave with a parting word, whatever it is, and your contact information so people will know how to get in touch with you.
Okay. I think my parting word would be, you are enough. You are enough.
Yes.
And you just remember that. You are enough. No matter what someone says to you, you are enough.
Yes.
And my information is, my Facebook is Authentically Me INC on Facebook. So that's Authentically Me Incorporated. And then my Instagram is Authentically Me __. And I just started my YouTube that I'm trying to get going. And it's just simply Tawanna L. Craig. And that's who I am. Oh, and my website is www.authenticallyme.org.
Okay. And I will put all of that in the write-up so everybody will know they can just click and click and click. So
okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Tawanna, it has been a pleasure. And I know our listeners and our viewers have gotten something today, because if they don't, they must not have been listening or they must not have been looking.
Look, I should have had more light on. You can see that my sun is going down here in LA.
It was funny. I did see that. So
I didn't turn my light on, and I'm sitting here thinking, should I get up and just flick the light on real quick? You know, but I'm like, you know, we're going to roll with this.
Honey, you could have, because that's how authentic we are. Because I did a thing earlier and my battery was running low. I was running all through the house while we were taping. Oh, whatever, you know, you can turn it off or whatever. To everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Until the next time, be well, stay healthy. Peace.
Peace. See you later.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.